Well, today I'm going to talk about my top 5 for 2025, which are going to be the odd items. And here's what I believe. To start, geopolitics. It's very clear that 2025 is going to be a year of many changes in that area. Well, let's start with the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Clearly something's going to happen, especially with the new Trump administration. And we're talking about a region here that for food and agriculture, of course, is of great importance. Let's not forget that Russia is a major grain producer and in particular the leading world exporter of wheat. So there's a lot at stake here. And as far as Ukraine is concerned, well, we have seen when the conflict started the impact it had on vegetable oil, for instance. So this is definitely something that's going to have a lot of impact, and we need to follow that very carefully. The other area in geopolitics I think is going to be important is what has happened in the Middle East recently, the conflict between Israel and Iran, because that's pretty much what it is, and the fall of the Syrian regime. Something is going to happen, and it's a region that has definitely a lot of issues, well, in terms of food security, but also in terms of water security. There is a lot of investments in that area, definitely in Israel, but also in Arab countries, and in particular in Saudi Arabia. And if the dynamics were to change there and people were actually thinking more of collaborating instead of fighting each other, a lot of interesting things could happen for food and agriculture. So definitely something to keep on following. And geopolitics, but also moving more towards internal politics. Well, that's the arrival of the new Trump administration and all the noise that Donald Trump is making about imposing tariffs in a number of countries. Definitely that's going to create some reactions, because like everything else, when there is action there is reaction, and we're going to see some interesting battles. What's going to happen, difficult to say. Of course, China is high on the list of the tariffs. Well, Trump administration #1 did that. China changed their way of sourcing a number of agricultural commodities, moving more towards South America, in particular Brazil and Argentina. What's going to happen this time, I don't know. Of course, China is less dependent than it was 8 years ago. But nonetheless, you can be sure that they're also going to try to fight back. There's going to be fights between the US and the EU, and the EU with their grain deal and all the consequences that that's going to bring, like I presented in a previous video. I think this is going to be very interesting to see what's going on. I think the EU is going to go also through a lot of internal fighting. Talking about geopolitics, well, the recent agreement, well, it's more of a, they agree to agree, or to start discussing about the agreement between the EU and Mercosur. That's going to also have consequences within the EU. France, Italy and Poland have already kind of expressed their reluctance to engage in that agreement, in particular because of agriculture. So we'll see. Back to the US, the other thing that I think can play a very important role is the policies that Trump is claiming to engage in terms of immigration and deporting a whole bunch of immigrants. That definitely brings the issue of who is going to do a lot of labor in the US agriculture, and in particular in the produce agriculture. A lot of organizations in the US and agricultural organizations have already expressed some fears about the impact it might have on the cost of food, and indeed, of course, in the end to the consumer prices. Maybe it would be good if the US took a good look at what happened in the UK after Brexit, when the UK was not allowing migrants from Romania in particular, or Poland, to come and work in their agriculture, and they ended up having to pretty much throw away a whole bunch of foods. So this is going to be interesting to see what's going to happen there. Further than that, of course, all of that is going to have an impact on the economy, imposing tariffs, having retaliating tariffs, possibly causing some troubles in terms of the amount of food that's going to be harvested, the prices, the cost. So we'll see what it's going to bring, but this brings me anyway to my second point, which is the economy. At the moment, yeah, that's pretty much the old saying in politics, you know, it's about the economy, stupid, and I really think that's what it's going to be. Even if the inflation numbers everywhere seem to drop, it's not what a lot of households are experiencing. They really have the feeling that really things are becoming more expensive and they're staying very expensive. So we're definitely going to change their choices. And I would say when it comes to food choices, for 2025 and perhaps a few more years, there's going to be really two items that's going to be at the top of the list. You know, that's going to be prices and health. So, and other aspects are going to be pushed a little bit in the background, and definitely also environmental issues not going to weigh as much, because people have to make choices with their wallets and not just with their beliefs. Yeah. So in terms of choices, I think, yeah, I was talking about health, and a number of areas going to be important when it comes to health. Definitely the issue of mental health is going to linger on, and is going to become more and more important things. Well, can food affect mental health? Well, you know, there are lots of views on that, but it's definitely going to be an item. The other item about health is going to be gut health. We're going to hear more and more about that. And the third item that I think we're going to hear more and more about is more personalized nutrition. And another area that I expect also when it comes to food is going to be ultra-processed food. Well, in the previous video I was also presenting a discussion about ultra-processed food. It's a generic term that covers many different situations, so we have to be cautious, but definitely people are going to be much more discriminating and definitely going to reject products that they consider can put their health at risk. So we're probably going to see also a movement back to more basic nutrition principles, and I think that's going to be good. Another aspect that's also going to play and that needs to be followed, and that's another video that I did recently, it's the GLP-1, so all the products, the diabetes medication that's used also for weight loss. The number 3 topic that I see playing an important role is the drying up of investment money that is going in agricultural tech and food tech. That's already been happening during 2024. Let's say since basically the interest rates have been going up, the inflation has been going up, things have become more difficult, and I think that the venture capital money and the big money is moving to other tech areas, in particular artificial intelligence, where they think that it's probably going to be a better return. Let's face it, a lot of ag tech and in particular food techs have not delivered anything. They have received a lot of money, but the results are not there, and I think that a lot of investors just don't consider food or agriculture as being a very attractive sector for the time being. Things can change, but I think for 2025 that's still going to stay in the doldrums. And and it's probably a good thing. I think this is going to help really removing a whole bunch of businesses that have no future. There already have been, over the last few months, quite a few companies closing. Some even that had really had a high profile and making very strong claims about how they were going to revolutionize food. You know, the whole agriculture, the whole way of producing food was over. I mean, they were coming and everything was going to change. Well, certainly things have changed for them because now they're out of business. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's probably a very healthy way of basically cleansing the whole tech and in food and agriculture, and then only the strongest will remain. and from there we probably will be able to build on better solutions for the future. So that's not a bad thing. Number 4 on my list, I mentioned it a little bit, it's artificial intelligence in general, and well, with the new Trump administration and the first buddy, or I would say the first oligarch, if you want to make comparison with the Kremlin, Elon Musk, definitely they're going to push for artificial intelligence. Elon Musk is probably very motivated because he sees that he can probably make even more money than he already has. So they're going to push in that direction. When it comes to food and agriculture, what I think we're going to see is actually a lot of bit of a struggle to develop proper tools that are going to be useful. And the problem, I believe, it's going to be mostly about how to make sure that you have reliable data and you can process it to really make good decisions. In a previous video I was making a comparison between artificial intelligence and cooking, and I was saying, well, the data is the ingredients, the algorithm is the recipe, and the users are the chefs. So, and basically, data, it's going to be a little bit like collecting data is going to be like agriculture. You're going to have to put the seeds to get the good data, and you're going to have to harvest that data, but you're also going to have to do some good quality control in your harvest to make sure that what you bring to the processing, which is the recipe, the algorithm, is going to be of the proper quality. And then you're going to need also people who have a good understanding of agriculture to really develop proper algorithms, and especially what's going to be important is to remove any kind of bias in the algorithm, and that's kind of a weakness in the, broad public available artificial intelligence program. There is still quite a bit of bias, so we need to remove that, and that's going to take quite a bit of thinking, a bit of work, and I think there's definitely a lot of brainstorming that needs to be done between the food and agriculture sector and the developers. And the last thing, of course, is the user, and so yeah, the cook is going to be a chef, or is it going to be a fast food kitchen? Depending on the choice that companies will make, of course, the end product is going to be different. So definitely AI on the map. I don't expect, extraordinary breakthrough in 2025 about AI, but just, work in progress, developing good systems, good programs, and I think it's going to deliver, but it's going to take more time than, let's say, we thought a year ago. And number 5, and I don't know if I should say last but not least, but it's definitely an area of concern, and it is diseases. And it can be human diseases, it can be animal diseases, it can be plant diseases, and definitely one of the worries is about diseases that can be transmitted between species. Well, at the moment, let's say the big topic is avian flu that has been found in people, that also has been clearly passed to cows, and the virus been found also in the milk. So now they're going to have to investigate the milk just to make sure it's fit for human consumption. So definitely here we're dealing with a very, very tricky area. We'll see what's going to happen when we see, let's say, how fast companies have been able to develop some vaccines. Perhaps there's going to be a vaccine against the avian flu, albeit for the poultry, or for the people, or for the cows, or all of them. Then we need to see, but yes, there's going to be some action in that area. That's what I expect. So here it is. These are my predictions, let's say, what I expect to really be quite on top of the list in 2025. Of course, there are plenty of other areas, like the climate is not going to go away and all. But I think these are probably the ones that are going to get the most interest, and where there's going to be the most work being done on. Maybe not, high profile necessarily, but that's what I expect.
If you're interested in my videos, please click on the subscribe button, or you can also visit my website.